COE camera coming through. Before we do that, Bigger Belly coming.
747, 747.
Funds right now.
Yo,
So if you're enjoying COE right now, I need 10 of you guys to drop £10 into COE's Bentley fund. Let's get it.
Come on.
And if you ain't got that money, I need about 50 of you guys to drop £5 in there. And if you ain't got that, then boy, like stop watching COE because this ain't for free. Chase.
Content over everything. You got to keep up the likes. You got to keep up the likes and the sharing.
Jeez. That's when you go to Times TV. No, that's okay. Alright, the jet is yours. The jet is yours. The island is mine. The island is mine. So the Times TV island. Jeez. Let's do this. I'm gonna create in Arabia. Anyway, it's there. Just on the offshoot where the ocean is. Get the sand, dump it there, create my own island. Let's get it. Guaranteed fun. We say no donations.
100 over everything.
That's already. Guess what now? Guess what? No. Turn it to that because let them know we're going on this camera now.
It's a big camera now.
So if we don't get no donations, this is going to be locked off and we're going on this big boy camera right now. So let's see what's happening. I'll give it. I saw 2 donations. 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Hey.
Easy.
And make sure you like. You got to like, you got to share, and give the information.
Not too much now, no overload.
Yeah.
Share that. Oh, stuck for a lot.
Gotta run, boy.
7 Oh, man.
Oh, snap.
So we're saying we need at least 5 donations. At least 5 donations. No. Don't roll yet. 5 donations. Big up. Take the camera this way.
We're going already, yeah?
Jeez. Big odds. No, come on. Big odds. Big odds played in later on as well. What is it? Big odds waiting in the background, so he said,
man. Big odds coming for you.
Yeah, he's coming. He said I played with his mind, G. You know the way he's there. Hashtag Kalam did it.
Hashtag Kalam did it. I guess so.
Jeez.
At least you're approaching though. It's not mental behind the back.
Yeah.
How many men be watching and not be live?
Let the sisters come in.
Sisters.
Make some room for the sisters.
We have back to the head
okay.
Back to the camera. Back to the headlights.
Yeah, you got to do those ones.
Tiger's coming. Tiger's jumping in.
Tiger.
Jump in, Tigers.
Tiger knee.
But yeah, if you want to say something, just say it from the side.
I mean, in terms like
So we're going to talk about that.
that's not always the best
Same thing.
solution.
Yeah.
Because I mean, children they need to have like interaction or something. Because in our community, we've done a lot of homeschooling.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking more on the lines of like weekends.
Yeah.
Like what you were saying. I think if if that's what to I'm on it now. Halas, no problem.
Just the mic.
Okay, no problem. It's all right. Yeah. So I think, like, obviously, I mean, we're talking about. I mean, I came in the middle of it. Are you talking? What are we talking about in terms of what you want to teach them?
We were just talking about like whether homeschooling was a solution towards building children from within our communities, our separate communities around the country. Whether homeschooling was a solution towards some of the issues that they face here within the Western system, Western societies, and whether that is productive or helpful to them. And I guess you heard me. I said I don't think necessarily homeschooling is the idea, but I think Saturday schools and things like that would probably work a bit better. And eventually working towards creating a wider curriculum to when you have a full-on actual school, a full actual institutions.
I do agree. I think with homeschooling, the reason why I don't think it's really good is children come out, they don't have communication skills, and they have to really interact. Like I had a lot of family friends who homeschooled their kids up until secondary school. And when they went to secondary school, they didn't know how to interact with people. They ended up getting bullied even more. Do you understand me? But I definitely think that, we have a lot of centres, like you can, Tabernacle, Adventure Centre, all these places do, for example, Arabic classes. If people wanted to talk about Pan-Africanism or spreading the black community,
We've got
for sure, 100%. It needs to.
homeschooling in Imperial Wolf.
That's it. Okay, 100%.
I think you're growing, your community, our community.
Yeah, no, I
These
think
are putting money
sure.
in. It's about.
I think across the African Caribbean community, there's a lot of Saturday schools already running. Like I know a bit more in South East London than perhaps the other parts, but I think even in North London they have a few as well. I think back in the 90s there was a lot more, but I think they lost a lot of buildings that they owned and things like that. a lot of poor management and things around that. So I think there is now growth towards that area now, but I think you'd have to move beyond. I think what we need to do now is not only just have those Saturday schools, but now start connecting them together and actually start promoting them more, because I think quite often usually what happens is certain communities start sending their children there, but some of the communities within the black community who need it the most, some of the most hard done by working class, who are caught within the trap or whatever, who need to go to Saturday schools most, aren't necessarily close to that conscious community. So they're missing out on all these sorts of things. Whereas the kids who are already in the conscious community are already getting it, and that's what's happening. That's it.
The crux, I think, is money.
Yeah, that's it, definitely. I think finances is the biggest issue. And I think it's also community realising that there's a need for it, you know what I mean? I think quite a lot of the time there's man, it's getting loud. A lot of times there's like, the community don't necessarily realise there's a need for or they realise there's a need for it, but they don't prioritise it. Like, I can spend £20 a week, send my kid to Saturday school, or I can keep it myself, send my kid to normal school, and spend it on something else. And a lot of people will decide to spend it on themselves, you know what I mean? I think there needs to be a lot more within our community, a lot more of an educational idea about keeping our money in our community, not spending it on things in our community, do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Also fundraisers.
And definitely, I think we have to just, like, I don't think the black community are necessarily very good at necessarily getting behind those sorts of things in general, do you know what I mean? I think you've got the black church, you've got like the black, the black Muslim community to an extent is quite organised, and outside of that, there's no wider black community that's fully organised. Are we losing, what's going on? Mr. Mike, okay, my bad. There's no wider black community that's that is actually getting together to do these sorts of things like fundraising or stuff like that.
Yeah, but
we usually do get together.
Like maybe like trustees.
That's it.
And have like an organisation.
That's it.
And then from that organisation, then you do fundraisers.
100%.
Fundraisers for the men, fundraisers for women,
100%.
mixed events, whatever. And then people can do standing orders.
That's it.
And this is how you will build. And for the parents that can't afford to send their children, the ones that have donated or that are doing standing orders, their children can then come and participate in these kind of events.
I'm behind that. I mean, I'm 100%. That's like, coming to Islam, reverting to Islam, and seeing how a lot of the Muslim community do things. Just even the fact that I go to the mosque, we go to the mosque like 5 times a day, and just go in, and it's just a space for me to chill and relax, and just I'm calm. I'm just in my own zone of peace. I'm like, if the black community just had a space they could go and chill, they'd be a lot happier here in the UK. Do you know what I mean? And they'd be a lot more productive here in the UK.
There are a lot of places that are like frequented by the black community, like for example West London Tabernacle, Adventure Centre.
Yeah.
These kind of places that are becoming becoming disused.
Yeah.
Maybe like a group of black brothers and sisters should go there and approach them and see.
100%. I think that is. I'm from that same sort of area, so I will definitely try and look into that for sure.
Because I know like a lot of them are not being used a lot
anymore.
And maybe they might charge you per hour because they say they're not allowed to give it to you for free. But maybe once they see that the community is coming, they might give it to you for free. Because once you get money, you can pay for it.
That's it. I think it's about the community coming together first and foremost in order to do that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Because if they're going to charge per hour, it's all good. I'm happy to do it for a while. Do you know what I mean? Pay myself after exactly, and that's it. So you have to come up with a sustainable sort of fundraising method. And what do you think about actual? So for example, a lot of people talk about Marcus Garvey, and he had the UNIA, which is an actual tangible movement, which actually had meetings, they had buildings and halls, they had businesses and structures. Yeah. What do you say about creating something like that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But then, as I always say, a lot of people miss out, which is Prince Hall.
Yeah.
Because that's where Garvey got his stances from.
Okay.
In understanding the Free African Society and the Free African schools.
Teach me, I don't know about this.
I said Prince Hall, yeah?
Yeah, Prince Hall.
Teach me.
Goddamn! Y'all go research Prince Hall, yeah? Go research Prince Hall.
Understanding that he accomplished by going to Africa, and he did go, but the only problem that he had was that they put sanctions on him for him not to able to trade.
Okay.
But a lot of them did die, and a lot of them did go back because it was Prince Hall, Oluwaseun, George Africanus. There was a few of them, and they created this. But they created the school, the Free African School, to able to teach them. And enough of them, if you check them up on the list of the people that went to that school, they came to England. Some of them went to Cambridge, some of them went to Oxford, some of them studied around England. Because they had to educate, because remember, America didn't have schools at that time.
Of course, definitely.
So they had to begin their homeschooling from somewhere.
I didn't know about Prince Hall. I knew about Garvey, and he had a whole group of crew of men.
But that's where he got his
I didn't know
sanctions
about the man around him. To be fair. So
and And because Prince Hall is from the 1800s, it was way before Garvey.
Way before, yeah. Calm. Okay, predating. Getting education.
I'm gonna keep quiet on that, you know. I'm gonna keep quiet on that. Y'all know, if you know Prince Hall, you'll know this.
Okay. Exactly.
Okay.
23 degrees, baby. He's well educated.
Because remember, every church establishment.
Yeah, of course. I know.
I said lion paw grip. Get me? Oh man.
But I hear that though. Lion paw grip.
It's understanding,
No, 100%.
understanding the system, because a lot of people take masonry for it's wrong.
Some weird kind of spooky thing. Yeah.
But that's the demonizing something,
Of course.
so you don't go there.
Of course.
But when you understand, just put it onto the basic system.
Yeah.
Your first most, when you bring like a community hall, what's the first thing? What do you, after a church? What do you build? What does a church have that it builds the next building? What's the next building?
Did you say community?
No. The church.
Oh, usually hospitals back in the day, and like orphanages and things like that.
Every Catholic school, what do they? I mean,
a church, school.
Church,
Okay.
school.
Yeah.
So understanding that, even when we have a community, we build a school.
Of course, 100%.
Then we build a hospital because we have to deal with the health. What Garvey did, he had a whole heap of people, and then after that, then you can build your nation in forms of economics.
100%.
Because now these people are studied to move further. So the organisations, they worked on that platform. You understand? By educating themselves and then creating the school and teaching the babies.
So, but how do we in the UK now then go about doing that? Because people have tried.
No, the only reason why people, as I said before, we have to be truthful to ourselves.
Yeah.
Most people, like for instance, all the community halls that we have today, what do they do with the money? They go Margate, they do sound systems, they do all different types of things.
Yeah.
But the actual core of teaching, how much money do they put into that?
Not much.
Not much.
Yeah.
It's more of leisure than actual things. That's why you get...
That's the downfall of our community, do you think? And why do you think that is happening within the African Caribbean community?
It's like, for instance, someone that doesn't have no money, and you put £1 million in their hand, that have never ever seen £1 million and have never known how to spend £1 million. What do you think they will do with that money?
Do all the things they've never done before, as much as they can do it. All the things they've always wanted to do.
And they're not going to record or buy things that they're supposed to do within that community, because they're not looking at the community's interest. They're looking for their own personal interest out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we were to come together, we have to have something that we're able to make us have that emotional attachment. Because if I worked hard for it, then I'm going to provide what I'm supposed to provide.
100.
You get what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So it's.
But when you give them that £1 million, you give them with conditions, isn't it? When you give that person that £1 million, right, you give them with conditions.
Of course.
You should find their way around that.
They should be accountable as well.
And it should be accountable.
Yes.
People always find their way around that.
The agreement is amongst the people
But what
that
you're
put the
trying
money.
to say is that if you give that person the £1 million, that he's going to grab and put in his pocket.
Not all the time, but
But
quite a lot of time. What happens
Even
in our
if he
community?
spend it wrong, but he's going to spend some of it right.
Some of it. That's
I know,
it.
but then
But
why?
if you give him
Hold
a
on.
million, if I
One
give
second.
you-
Let me just on this point here, because when Jamaica got given loans by the what happened to them, right? Jamaica was doing so well, same level as Singapore back in the 70s, right? And then the IMF comes along and says, your economy is doing so good. You know what you should do? Take the structural readjustment program. Take this extra loan, use it to build schools, houses, and all of this.
In
And then-
Jamaica?
yeah, in Jamaica.
No,
One second.
what you're talking
One
about?
second. Like in the 70s. So take this to do this. 1 second, yeah? Take this to do these buildings, right? They took the money. What happened? The buildings never got completed. A lot of corruption, a lot of that money disappeared into other people's hands, into different places. And then Jamaica was left with a huge amount of debt. Debt which they're still paying back up to today. And ever since then, Jamaica's economy has been a debt-based economy. So what I'm saying is, okay, yeah, fair enough. People will spend some of the money, because some schools got built, some roads got built. But was all the money spent how it was supposed to be spent in order to get the gains back from that? Do you know what I mean?
It was the Chinese that who built a lot of the roads in Jamaica.
In Jamaica, in the 70s.
Yes.
In the 70s, when Jamaica was getting money from the IMF. That may well have been the Chinese, but the money came from the IMF.
I don't know where you get that information.
What was saying?
There's a very good documentary called Life and Debt. It's about Jamaica. I'd suggest you go and read it. Look it up. and you'll get to see, especially the economic history of Jamaica.
In the 70s, if you talk about the 70s,
Yeah.
I run around all the West Indian countries with our people because I used
And so I'm pretty sure you saw the change in Jamaican politics
but you
with
see,
Siaga coming
you see
in
the
and the
changes.
CIA bringing the weapons in and in order to make sure Jamaica
you see the
ran on a
changes
certain
in all
standard.
the West Indian
But understand,
Exactly. So this
and the countries is going faster than the people.
this is the point I was trying to make, though. Do you know
but
what I mean?
like, as I was saying, in this country specifically, right? Most people, most community centres that have had funding, where are these communities now?
Here in the
But
UK.
These community halls that they've had, establishments, like at the moment we're having an issue with Stonebridge Complex.
Stonebridge Park, yeah.
Where has the money that's been provided for them gone?
There's Simba and Shepherd's Bush, there's loads.
Right, but they have built community centres.
Yeah, but where are they now?
This is the
Well,
thing,
because
they
they
were coming
closed
in the
them down.
90s.
Because they're not
Because-
getting funded anymore.
Exactly, because
Right.
what I'm trying
We
to
as a
say is
community-
If they
you're
haven't got
supposed to have
funded, what
sufficient.
can they do?
No, but if you have the money, then you should have a 10, 20-year plan of creating to bring in money back in.
That's it.
Not depending on
On the
someone
government to keep
always giving you
funding.
money.
Do you know what I mean? And other communities,
Yeah, but
the other
you know,
communities,
the
sorry.
money is to be spent on the community.
Yeah, for sure.
Not
But-
for you to be out.
No.
Like what I'm saying to you is other communities managed to do this. They managed to get given a hall by the government, funding by the government for a certain amount of time, and during that period of time they're receiving this funding, they say, you know what, this funding might not last forever, so let's put our money together so we can maintain this hall within our community. Whereas within our community, we've had a lot of these halls, and we've gone to this point where in the 90s I grew up going to all these halls, Simba, Stonebridge
all
Park
of them.
Complex, all these halls all around, like I
And
say,
on all-
Tabernacle,
on all
all
that-
across West London we had all these places. Now when you look around for the youth today, they have no community centres to go to. We're fighting to keep hold of Stonebridge Park.
And I've seen
the
it.
question is,
I know where
and
you're
the
talking
question is, how did this happen?
I think I've got the answer. I think you are.
Go ahead,
In
sister.
our community, what happened was people that were already like their field is economics, or their field is banking, or their field is fundraising. They would volunteer their time,
Yep.
and that's why their facilities would last longer. I'm not saying that the black community can't do it. I just think the people that are in power, the positions of power, the people that are in higher education, are not volunteering their time.
I think-
so you've got people that know what they're doing. They're ones that are volunteering. Don't have
The dog's asking the question.
Rascal Lord.
the ones that are volunteering. They
That
don't
dog
have
just scared
the
her. Yo, I don't do dogs. Hey.
They're not equipped to
Yeah.
run a centre.
100%.
I think that's where the mistakes are.
Yo, Mr. Riggs, listen to this one. Okay, I want Kalam to hear that one as well. That's a good point as well. So what she's saying is, within our community, a lot of the people who have the education, like she's saying, within her community, you have the people who are fundraisers in a day job, people who are accountants and who are bankers, who have all these jobs.
Yeah.
They come and volunteer their time into the community groups to make sure that the fundraising keeps going for their communities. Whereas within our community, those people who have those skills, who have gone to university, for whatever reason, they don't come back with their skills to the community.
Because the one thing that we tend to do is we go into working establishments and understanding that what we don't understand is that most jobs are supposed to be temporary. That's why in today we have contracts. We don't have permanent jobs where it's going to give you all the things when you move out. Now, when you look at that procedure, right, most of the people that are putting in, they don't see it as a full-time thing. They're only having their own ways of dealing with it in that form. They put in, like, let's say I'm an accountant, I might put in and help out and say I'm an accountant, but I've got a main agenda. And it always becomes that personal agenda. Do you understand? And this is why I was saying about like things like Simba, where they had a lot of the guys in there. They were building up sound systems. They were building up speakers to do events for them for their personal use when it was something that was supposed to be used for the children.
So we do have to take some blame for that as well in our community.
Yeah.
100%. I would say that also plays into a part. So I think
What happened in Stonebridge?
in some
Simba and Stonebridge, no, Stonebridge was even worse. But I can't even go into that one because I got all the paperwork for that.
We'll come into that one later.
Because remember in Stonebridge there was a lot of events in there.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
That's what I gotta
happened
say.
there. A lot of stuff happened there. But,
They were importing people from Jamaica and all sorts.
definitely, a lot of stuff happened there.
It's more about power. That's what they fight. They feel like everybody wants to be in charge.
That's it, yeah.
I think that's the only thing. Other than that, they do volunteer their time. Trustees don't get paid.
Okay.
Trustees, they do is you have power or you get paid. So the trustees have the power, but they don't get money. So that's why you find people
But most of them are voluntary work.
Right? And you had to say, and what you've done,
so he's saying
you made a claim and said to me
these
that
companies failing. And I think
whenever
the
I come
people
to the
that
council,
are
you
educated enough to run it,
and then he made a claim that
I'm just a layman. I'm going to come here, I'm going to volunteer, but I don't know really what I'm doing. So I'm not going to spend the money properly. I don't know what I'm doing. I just got a good heart.
That's it. I also think,
are in positions where they can give constructive property.
What I think also is within our community, there's also the issue of not just the people who get skilled and they come out of the community, they actually leave the community. They go to university and they actually come out of university at the other end and they're almost a different person. They're in a different class of people, different group of people. They don't actually want to really. There's some black people who are like that. There's also some black people who go to university and actually as a result of that, sometimes they get pushed out of the community by other black people. Other black people within the community are like, bruh, he thinks he's better than us or whatever. And we're not necessarily, I think there's an issue between the so-called university educated and the so-called conscious community who haven't necessarily had that university education, which I don't think is a bigger issue nowadays, but there has been an issue in the past where the two weren't necessarily working together in tandem as well. And my thing is, within the Islamic community, when I went to university, you go to the Islamic society, they've always got someone coming in to give a lecture. Someone in from the community to come and give a lecture. You go to African Caribbean society, they've got some sort of party, some sort of fashion show, some sort of, do you know what I mean? A lot more leisure, do you know what I mean? It's like what you're saying, there's a lot more leisure and there's not enough about the education and community building. That's it.
So when you don't have a lot of money, because I've come from council housing.
That's it, yeah.
When we weren't practicing, when our communities had money, they wanted to party.
That's it.
Yeah, but and that's what I'm saying is some people are not used to it. Like my father did it. He said he showed me something. He showed me a suitcase full of money, and he asked me, what would I do with it? And I explained that kind of scenario. But what he told me, he says, the majority of people, when you show them something of that magnitude of amount of money, some people get frightened of it.
Of course, lose their mind.
And then there's a burst that they just want to grab onto things because they think they've got something that's going to last forever. That's why even if you look today, how many lottery people that have won the lottery have still got the same money today?
Not many. Yeah, that's true. It's true. And so that
outreach.
I think so.
You don't know there's a brother who's good at accounting.
And that's the thing, but I'd say the conscious community, the black conscious community needs to get more active, in my opinion, within the universities directly. They need to go out, because the African Caribbean Society gets given certain amounts of money from the university itself. They could give that money to Caribbean speakers, African Caribbean speakers. They can fly people in from other countries to do lectures and talks. And as the conscious community itself engage with those universities, they will be finding students who are studying engineering, medical science, all these types of things, and they can actually bring those people back into a wider community. Because right now, I think it's way too separate. Like when someone goes to university, it's almost like they almost have no more contact with the conscious community anymore to some extent. There is a lot of people in the conscious community with university educations, don't get me wrong. Like myself, I grew up in the conscious community, I went to university, so there's no way I'm going to really leave because I came from that background. But I'm talking about reaching out further beyond to others.
But it's in that fact of creating a purpose. And each person has to look at it that, okay, this is our purpose. What type of legacy that we can pass on to the next generation? Without us creating no forms of legacy, how are we going to be able to move forward? You understand? And majority of people live for now. They don't live for tomorrow. Because if I said to them, would you take 10 million in 10 years time or take 10 million now? Most people will say, you know what, I want that 10 million now.
100 million in 10 years time or 10 million now.
Even if it was 10 million equal, a lot of people want it now than 10 years time.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that 10 years time could be a security for your future.
Could be, yeah, definitely. 100%.
The answer to this problem is just getting a centre first.
Yeah.
Because if you get a centre, you can get people to come in, talk to the children, teachers, police officers, engineers.
I would say fundraising and a centre at the same time, because I think once you get that centre, it's like what you're saying, you have to have your 10, 20-year plan. But what's the plan for this centre? What are we going to do here? Are we going to run a school out here eventually? Are we going to do, run a school in the weekend?
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Constructive purpose.
That's it.
If we have a piece of paper and say, these are all the things that we need to do, and we're able to tick each one off, then it gives us a purpose that we have a guideline to run through. But the problem is that we dismiss the guidelines and just work on a freelance.
Come, me and you now, Mr. Ray, let's make some guidelines for what a community group or what a vertical black community group would need to do or need to look at doing.
Okay, the real thing is we have to have a purpose. And the first principle is we all understand everybody has a different school of thought and a different ideology. But our main goal that we as a collective need to focus is our future. So what can we do to creating that future? Whether it's homeschooling, whether it's creating a school, whatever it needs. As I was saying to you before earlier, because now we are a community. We don't have to have a building to have a community hall, but we can, let's say, for instance, we have this community, we create this organisation, and now we think of the future of the babies, so that means that we have to look at the form of creating forms of teaching, and as well as creating the school in the future. Because at the end of the day, we need to teach now, not tomorrow, or say to people that we have to create in a school in the future. Like, let's say, we need to raise £5,000 to build a school. But the problem is, one thing that I will say, and I always identify this, like men have this big genre of looking at things. Like a woman, they just want the smallest things to be done. So in like a car, we want a big car, we want to drive the big car, but the woman only wants to get from A to B. Do you understand? So in that perspective is understanding we need to get from A to B in each form of strategy. So we need to be able to start teaching the children, even if it has to begin from home. And in today's world, we've got the internet, so we can do some form of internet schooling. Then we progress in that when we're going out, we come as a collective and start to teach. And then
You have to have an organisation, you have to have a name.
Yeah, you have to have that brand.
So
while we're building
and some aims, a vision. What's the foundation?
So while we're building, while we're at the time, while we're teaching the children, then we can think of the other strategy of able to build what we need. So that organisation, whether we build the organisation, we build the schools, but we need to be able to start this form of education immediately.
Here's my alternate idea of how we can do it, right? I would say we need, if we're going to create this organisation, first of all, we need the people say, put their money where their mouth is. £5, £10, £50 a month possibly, saying I dedicate to this organisation this amount of money. Because if we're going to have this Saturday school,
but then that's, the one thing I've learned in today's world, people don't like to go into their hands and put it into their pockets. But if we do it in the forms of giving something to somebody, let's say for instance, every time we print a book, you buy that book, the profit goes to the school. We go back, we buy the book, we sell the book. So we're educating at the same time and getting that profit. So then people will look at that and say, you know what, if I'm gonna donate to your school, I can buy that book. And it will always constantly remind him by him buying that book. So it's doing some.
But the same book over and over again?
No, different stuff. It's not just a book, but I mean, in forms of things that people need or say.
So rather than all people put their hand in their pocket.
Kickstart, where are you getting that money?
Yeah, that's
saying. Print these books where you're gonna have your logo, have your organisation. That needs at least.
Okay, understanding. Remember everything. And I hear that, but remember, everything starts from nothing.
Agree.
Because it takes an idea. So that idea is that I need to talk to this person and this person. Let's try and create something like a form of a business within the organisation. And this, like for instance, like pancakes or food or something.
Start off with a charity, and I'm sure you know this anyway. You fundraise. And then once you've got a little bit of money, you can print books. And you can say, look, we've got 4 hours a week, 2 hours a week, bring your children. And then it can expand.
And that's why I was saying, and in that format, and that's why I was saying, by giving people something, they feel more comfortable by knowing that I'm taking something home, but I've given you something in forms of donations. But then me just giving cash.
From my own experience, my community, I've been helping, I've been doing this stuff for over 25 years. When you give people things for free, a lot of the time they take liberties.
100%.
Oh, that's free.
100%.
No, but I'm selling.
Free, they're like, oh, you know, I'm taking this.
You're saying
week,
them,
I'll
but
take
that's what I'm saying.
week.
But the Saturday is
hear
good.
that.
The Saturday is good. Parents come and drop their kids off at the Saturday school for free.
Exactly.
For free.
No.
When they're paying,
When the parents are dropping their
kids.
school for Saturday school, they must pay a little fee.
Okay, cool.
So what I'm trying to say is, there's going to be books there. There's going to be certain things there where you will pay. You say, you know, I'm dropping my child, and then able to make the profit that comes from that source that you're doing is able to build the building that you need.
I agree and I disagree. I agree, but as that, there's definitely no way that you can say that's not a way to do things. Definitely a good way to do things. But I think what we need to do as a community, like I think fundraising, like selling things, doing fundraising, all these kind of things are good. But I think you need a core. And I think any organisation like this needs to start with a core who are willing right from the off to say, you know what, I am dedicated to putting a monthly amount in every single month. And the reason why I say you need that core is, well, like I said, I work for a zone organisation. Now these people, every month they put money into this. They're members of the month. What they get membership to this group of people, and they're members to this group, so they get to use the building whenever they want to use it. That's pretty much the only benefit.
But then look at the reality of today.
But I'm saying people will pay £50 a month to go pure gym, right? And people won't go to gym all 3 months in a row, but they're still paying that monthly amount.
It's a benefit.
So I'm saying there's a mentality and a culture.
But there's a benefit. But think about it like this: if I don't have no children and I have no instigation, but I'm working, what makes me want to give you £50 a month?
100% perfect. So I don't have children, and I would do this. I do this because I believe, like you said, it needs to be running around a name and a purpose. And like I said, I'd say Pan-Africanism for me. Do you know what I mean? And it needs to be arranged around that, and it's arranged around an ideology rather than. Okay, it's good to say, let's raise his kids. I'm saying, raise his kids to what? Do you know what I mean? I'd say, if we're saying we're creating a Pan-Africanist body or organisation to promote Pan-Africanist ideas, promote Pan-Africanist schooling, education, and actually promote Pan-African business as a whole, I'd be happy because I'm including that. I'm including that in terms of business. Even though I don't have kids, or I don't have no children, I'm including that community.
I'm just going to play a little bit of a devil's advocate on it. Is that the one factor that we have a problem with is trust.
Yeah.
How am I going to trust you to give me that £50? Even though I've got this ideology.
100%.
That's why you have trustees.
Exactly.
You have AGMs.
There you go. Annual general meetings. You set up with a proper actual structure, and like I say, you start with a core of people.
Maybe
You start with a core.
£10.
That's it.
Yeah.
But you start with a core of people to set this charity up. But even if it's just 10 people or 20 people up, to set out the agenda for that. Within that group of people, eventually you'll be able to put up enough outreach events and do enough support. You'll start building up interest in the actual idea, and people will actually start building trust. But like you say, trust is the biggest thing. But you don't build trust by not doing anything. No. You build trust by actually having those constant relationships, building up a transparent structure where you say, look, all of our stuff is going to be online. All of us, as a member, you can walk into any time and ask for this. You can log onto our account at any time and get this. And actually, this is a legally registered charity, so we are actually going by the British law in this country. So if anything goes wrong, you can take us to court and sue us. All the people involved, all the trustees who are involved are named, and all of that's clear. Exactly, non-profit organisation. Like I understand, there's still going to be people who won't ever trust that at all. They're still going to find a way to mistrust it. You can't spend your time worrying about everyone.
But then,
And like Raven says, you start with the waves. Do you know what I mean? So first wave, second wave, and third wave. Eventually, everyone's going to be doing it anyway. But you have to start with the first 2 people.
And this is what I was saying is building the structure of that community, that community or organisation.
And the idea,
and putting principles into place.
That's it.
Because always remember, in one thing is that for you, when you make yourself shine, people will follow.
100%.
You understand?
100%.
The prophets have done that and proved that.
Yep.
Right? So in that factor, when you understand that, then it's for you to able to apply that work into that organisation, and for them to able to see. When people start to see that, oh my gosh, this is what they're doing, this is what they're about, then you've got the advantage of where people will go and say, you know what, here's something to put into your system.
Yeah.
But until we do that, as I said, there is still going to be that trust value.
You're absolutely right, but our issue at the moment is that because of all the cuts, all the funding cuts, before you could have gone and approached the government and you could have got a little bit of government funding just to launch
Start you off.
Pan-African little community, fun fair or something. They were giving them money, but now
it gets into the political system.
Of course.
Yeah, and that's where the problem is, and that's why we have to become self-sufficient.
Yeah. When you say it gets into the political system, what do you mean by that?
Understanding the format of how the system has been constructed.
Yeah.
Understanding.
Sorry, just to shut you off. For me, when I talk about this Pan-African bloc, the reason why I joined it, I think, give my money to it, because I don't think it's just about creating Saturday school. I think it's also about creating voting blocks. In terms of, if we are going to vote as a community, we should vote as a community, as a bloc. And we should make politicians come to us and tell us directly what they're going to do for our community, and actually how they're going to do it for our community, and in the way that many other communities do. So you see they do the hustings, and they go to the Jewish community, and they go all the other people. These politicians are jumping on the spot trying to make these people happy just to win their votes. They never do it with us. They don't have to worry for us. They just say something about something search, something about possibly legalizing weed, and all of a sudden black people are coming out and saying they're going to vote.
Remember, the issue that we have is that we're in a European system.
For sure.
And the European system states the laws for this country.
Definitely. But in London, we have massive control.
We do and we don't.
Massive influence, though.
Yeah, we can have influence. But as I said, is that if we go back into from the beginning of the school system, and the reason why we need the homeschooling is because we tend to not give the culture for our children. We then tend not to teach our culture because we put our children into the Europeans' hands. So then the European person would say, why am I going to fund your situation when they should be in our system?
That's it. No, I hate you.
So this is where, as I said to you, this is where the self.
I hate you, but that's why I say we have to have this actual block for a community. Do you know what I mean? Because one, we have to do it for ourselves, but two, I believe when you start doing it for yourself, it gets a lot easier to make others do for you. So, for example, when I go to Southport, for example, you see the politicians in that area in Southport. They jump on back and forth trying to please the Asian community there. Do you know what I mean? Those, even if it's just 2 MPs, those 2 MPs in that area will jump back and forth for that community, and that community will get certain stuff from the council and all that sort of stuff in that community.
But understanding, you have to see the bigger picture, because them 2 people that are working for that community, they are working for a specific party.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, for instance, the Conservative might get 2 Asian guys and put them in there, but their main agenda is still this country's agenda, because that party is for this country's agenda. So this is why I said...
Do you think that's always the case then?
Most of the time.
Bernie Grant,
same thing.
was he for this country's agenda?
No, he was for his people, but what you got to understand, he was still controlled by this country, because
there are black MPs.
I know that. But that's what I said.
They give them. The reason is, if for them to able to contact a community, is I must get someone that represents that community. So I'll get that, but that person that is going in there, he represents me as a Conservative.
I hear you, but I slightly agree with that to a certain extent. Do you know what I mean? Because what I say is, with someone like Bernie Grant, he went in there directly saying that he represents the African Caribbean community. He also happened to have socialist values.
Yeah.
So where he aligned with Labour, he voted with Labour. Where he didn't align with Labour, he voted against Labour. And his voting record shows he voted against his own party.
Yeah.
And he was willing to do that.
But did it give him stake? Did it give him really much stake in the government?
I mean, not in the government, not in the party.
Exactly.
One second.
That's what I'm saying.
But it gave him more stake than him not being there, is the point that I'm trying to make. And he got certain things for him and his community because he was there. And what I'm trying to say to you is, if you're going to go into politics and thinking, we're going to win at this and this is going to solve all our problems, you don't understand politics and you're looking at it wrong. What I'm trying to say is, as a community, look at the Jewish community. They'll have about 4 or 5 different Jewish MPs. They're happy with that, but they're not focusing on that as winning them over. They're focusing on their own agenda. So I'm trying to say, if we're focusing on our own agenda and we own a few politicians, that is a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
No. But understand.
It's not a bad thing.
What I'm saying is, I'm not talking about. But what I'm trying to say is the form of control, the head of the party and who the party is. Now, okay. You might have certain people, but let's say there's an issue in that community. The government have a way of feeding them something to keep them quiet. Do you understand? They will say, like Brixton, they had their issues and had their problems. What did they do?
I mean, this is an issue that I think we haven't, because I think you're looking at it from a ground up perspective. I'm saying we need to be looking at it from a top down perspective of saying, you know what, we own this politician. You might think you own him, Labour, but we own him. And if he goes against us, we will get rid of him, and the next person that comes from our community, the next person that comes from our community will respect us more. Do you know what I mean?
But really and truly, as I said to you, you may feel that you own him, but really and truly the party owns him. Or they would have brought him up the rankings. There is an agenda.
I disagree with that because politics working like that.
Because no matter how much you can buy and do it, he may do things for your community, but what the main agenda is bums on seats, more votes.
Yeah,
so if I can get my guy to persuading you to vote for Labour, then it gives me strength of power to becoming Prime Minister. Do you understand?
Of course.
So, but then one person cannot change a Prime Minister's mindset if he's made his mindset.
But we don't want that though. That's not the aim though. The aim, once again, I'm trying to say from my perspective, maybe that's your aim. From my perspective, our community group is not to change the aim of the mind of Theresa May. Yeah. It's to make Theresa May's life a little bit harder and to make our lives a little bit easier.
Yeah, but by doing that is
But what
I want to say is when you actually look at it, right, is by creating your own community and doing your own thing, it gives them more of an irritation. They have no control. But if you are aligning yourself with the MP, I get what you're saying to get certain things done, but at the same time, it gives them control over that community. With the Jews have their own business and their own community. They can't. The English can't just infiltrate into it. You understand? They can't tell them what to do, but they can tell the community that just relies on that MP what to do.
But this is what I keep trying to say though. We're not about. It's not about us relying on the community. That MP relies on us rather than the other way around. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, I don't believe black people should vote unless they're voting as a bloc and as a community. So what I'm trying to say, just say in an area, a specific area in London, yeah, for example. Let me just say Laverick Grove, for example, yeah. Just say Laverick Grove, for example. They have just say, for example, in Laverick Grove, just somehow it happens to be about 40% population African Caribbean. Just say randomly, yeah. I'm not saying that's what it is. Just say it does, yeah. I'm saying that 40% African Caribbean people can control the politics of that region. They can control who gets elected. They can control who is on the council. They can control all of that if they vote as a bloc. And as a whole bloc, the whole 40% say we're only going to vote together. That means the MPs now would have to either come from that bloc themselves or appease that bloc. And I'm saying that bloc themselves now should say to the MP, you work for us as a community and you vote how we tell you to vote. One second, let me finish this. Now, if it turns around now, that like you're saying, the government are trying to feed that guy certain lines, and the guy and the community, us who are having our meetings anyway, who have our own agenda, our own ideas, our own businesses, all those things you're saying the Jewish community have, we already have that as a community. We now have control of this politician to say, all right, cool, you no longer represent our values, we'll get rid of you, we'll replace you with somebody who does represent our values. Do you know what I mean?
So, in the facts, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think that things have, like the Granville Tower, for instance?
Yeah.
Now, do you think that anything has been done?
No, definitely not. I don't think anything will be done.
So do
they just arrest some people, but I don't know anything about that.
So, understanding, so when the community, certain people in the community did things on their own initiatives, they're able to get what they needed.
What do you mean, like housing and stuff like that?
Certain things, establishments within the community, I can't really say, but they've by taking their own narrative as a community, they've got things where if they relied on the person that represents them.
Yeah, of course, but I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. Yeah. Never ever rely on the politician, never rely on politics, never see voting as the answer. Yeah. See voting as a lever. I'm sitting down in my master chair. Yeah. I've got levers all in front of me.
And that's what
I'm going to pull this lever today, and also while pulling this lever, I'll pull these other levers. All of them are in the purpose of building up my community. Do you know what I mean? So this politic lever is just for building up my community. If it's not working anymore, I call in the mechanic and we replace that lever with a new one. Do you know what I mean? But that's just one lever. If you're looking, far too many in our community, they think about voting and they think, oh no, if you vote, you're going to put all your trust into that position. No, it's just that's just one lever you're pulling with that vote. Do you know what I mean? Use all the levers you have, use all the tools you have available to you. And we keep focusing on the same tools we have been in the conscious community of doing little fundraisers here, fundraisers there, focusing and talking in towards each other. And we don't start thinking like the Jewish people are thinking, how can we look at our macro scale and become controllers in this game? How can we start playing chess and start being pawns?
And that's where the economical system comes in. Because, and that's where I'm trying to get at, is that by us having our own narrative and bringing our own economical system, it gives us the obligation to having some form of power.
Sure, I agree with that.
So once we this is what I mean about doing our thing. Is once we created that, then it gives us a stake.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe I jumped the gun. But between you and I, maybe other African Caribbean people or in the community might know that. But between you and I, you just educated me a bit about Prince Hall and those guys. But you know about Marcus Garvey. You know about Thomas Sankara. You know, so we know that the foundation for what we need to build is already there.
It
between
just
me
upgraded.
and you.
That's all.
Exactly. So we already know the system that we need to get to is already there.
Exactly.
So I'm saying to you, if me and you stand on that now and we create that organization, pulling that political lever doesn't take away from the fact that we're focused on this organization.
And that's what I was saying about Kalam. That's what when I was saying to Kalam earlier about okay, you're the teacher and you're teaching the children, but where was the educational system into that place?
Oh, he's back now.
To fund.
Back to our
as we got Titans TV. Black Eyes TV,
Scattered Minds, baby.
And this guy here, he just ran off and came back.
Yeah, sure.
So we wanted to hear the plans and the principles and structure of how to begin this thing.
Okay, so
the homeschooling.
Homeschooling, right?
Hey, cool. Yeah. We moved a bit, but yeah, go ahead.
No, but that's what I'm putting you in. I want you to give us a kind of a basic principle that we should able to follow as a community coming together.
Yeah.
So that we can able to build this.
Okay, cool.
Whether it's homeschooling or school or whatever we need to do to move forward.
Cool. The first thing is, as always, is to construct a mastermind group.
Yeah.
Number one, right? And then you need to set forward the agenda on the table as to why exactly are you creating a homeschool situation? Like why? What's happening with the public school system that you don't think your children is benefiting from? You dig what I'm saying? So you need to fully understand the problems, the flaws in the system, as well as the pros and positive outcomes that take place inside the system. And then obviously, take the good from the system, and then leave the bad alone, and also try to find what is necessary. Because of course, the school system, who was it? Was it Ford? Who was it, man? Who actually created the school system? And that was to literally create good workers. You dig what I'm saying? So we don't want to put our children into that position. We need the children that will be the leaders of the new generation. We need the children that will have the wealth and the resources and the connections for our future. You dig what I'm saying? So we need to know that, and we need to make sure that we create or construct several different schools that fits our agenda for our community as well, right? And after you've done that, you strategize, you create your plan, and then you start implementing the plan, baby. That's it. No hard about it. Just take those steps, baby. Take those steps.
In the forms of the Egyptian mythology, for the average person that needs to be taught, what kind of basic principles would you give them?
So the average person that needs to be taught, what would be the basic principles?
Yeah.
So
because we know people will come from all different types of environment, but for us to able to conduce, whether it doesn't matter where we're coming from, us to able to follow them principles, what kind of simple basic principles would we put down?
Religion,
whether it's like mentalism or polarity or whatever, what kind of principles can we all follow?
Okay, the first thing that I brought forward the Kemetic Creed, right?
Yeah.
And the very first principle. Let me see who's clued up with the Kemetic Creed. Anybody? Boom. Nobody. All right. So the Kemetic.
Answer Uncle Ty's question then.
In a minute.
Does Moses?
Just one second.
Fit into that.
In a minute. All right. So we're staying on track, baby. We're staying on track. All right. So the very first thing we talk about is gnosis, right? Which is knowledge, right? And that is the starting point. Rather than dealing with fallacies and belief systems and so forth, let's go into something that we can actually prove, knowledge based, right? That means we need to implement the scientific method and critical thinking. That's number one. right?
Okay.
So whatever we do, whether it's maths, it needs to be scientifically minded. It needs to be critically thinking. Literature, whatever it is, that is the foundation of everything. Critical thinking, right? That's it. That's the very first principle I will lay down.
Okay.
I don't think we need any more principles other than that. That's it. Think critically.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking and knowledge, obviously. Attaining
That's what
knowledge.
education really should give you.
At
the most.
Because education, the actual word education is educare. And that literally means educare means to draw out. Draw out of you, right? So it's not to put things into you, it's actually take it out of you. Because all of the teachings are already inside of you. That's why we say, number one, know thyself. Know thyself and know the universe and you know God, right? So once you know yourself, right, all the answers is already inside of you.
What about gender?
Sorry?
What about gender?
Gender or agenda?
No, gender, as in both male and female together in one.
Okay, so should male, should...
You know, in the form of connection.
Learning together.
No, meaning that, you know, like as if you got a plus and a minus and it produces electricity. That most things have a male and female within it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people dismiss it that it has one side or it has the other side. Where it has, when we're teaching, we have to have both sides of the teaching of the male and the masculine, but not as in the form of sex, but as in the form of the male and female
masculine, feminine.
energies.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's
standard.
That's standard.
Yeah. Hold on, 1 minute.
What scholars you use, what teachers.
Yeah. So again, that
Interesting.
that ties into like exactly what your curriculum is. So depending on the actual
Context and what you're trying to do.
yeah, the actual field that the subject that you're talking about.
Okay.
Then you can, choose which is going to be the appropriate teacher.
So if
And do they fit the criteria of what you want as a teacher?
So now, Kalam school,
Yeah.
high school. So it's looking at that, 7 to 12 to like 16, that area of age group, yeah?
Okay, yeah.
What are the main 3 subjects? Right now it's math, science, and English. That's what they'll tell us that we have to learn here in the UK.
Yeah.
What would you say the main 3 would be?
Okay, the main 3, I would say, I come from the liberal arts type of way of thinking. So the first is the trivium. Anybody know the trivium? Let's see again. Anybody know what a trivium is? Boom. Nobody knows what a trivium is. Okay, so the trivium is to do with, I almost didn't know, grammar, rhetoric, and logic. First 3 things on the ladder. That's what you need to be taught.
What? Well, that makes sense. Cool. That's it. That's the first. That's it.
That's the first 3. Drill that into the children's head, right?
Yeah.
So grammar covers everything. Grammar is like the basic building blocks of speech, right? Or language, full stop. But it's also, you can transpose that into other fields as well. Because once you get the basics of what grammar is, you can transpose those skills into the different fields. And of course, logic. Again, we're talking about deductive logic, informal logic. We're talking about fallacies, all those different things there. Needs to be taught to the children, right? That stimulates critical thinking, and of course, rhetoric, right? Because we want to create leaders, and all great leaders need to be speakers, right? So that's it.
Okay, cool.
So history will fall into...
History is something completely different. That's another subject.
You don't think that's one of the founding 3?
Sorry, but in order to read history, you need to know grammar, right?
Yeah, cool.
Right? In order to read history, you need to be a critical thinker, because you need to understand that there is different perspectives.
So what was that thing called there?
Trivium.
The trivium. After trivium, what would you do next?
Quadrivium.
What's quadrivium?
Quadrivium and quadrivium.
Quadrivium.
4 subjects.
4 subjects.
It comes in the 4 subjects of in your educational system of secondary schools. Maths, language, science, and some people they imply music or religion or whatsoever as the 4th one. But these are compulsory subjects that you have to go through in the form of what country you're in and what system you're following.
Okay, cool.
So that it comes under the principles of Kalam.
How is my system different from the school system? The school system teaches you a servile education, meaning it wants you to be good, how can I put it, workers, right? My system, I'm trying to say to other people, is to be leaders. It's a liberal education. Liberal education means to be free.
Can everyone be a leader though?
No, but yes.
You can be trained as one, but you don't mean you're a leader.
But yes. Okay, so let me explain that a bit further.
Yeah.
Not everybody is born to be leaders, but although leaders can be taught the skills how to actually lead, right? And we all leaders in terms of yes, in our own own sphere. And right now you're leading things, right? But when you go to your workplace, you might have to go and humble yourself and be in the servant position. So we're all leaders, but we're not all leaders in the same right.
So that's why you get some of the most powerful men are always in second of command. Understanding that the leader is just probably the face, but there's always someone behind it that makes that face more powerful.
That's right. That's the courtier role, baby. That's the courtier role.
That's why they always say that sometimes that, it's always the woman or the mother whispering in the ear.
Yeah, for sure. That's it. No, I get that. Cool. But, so building these leaders, could you review them? Would it be same subjects then, science and all that sort of stuff?
Similar.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Very similar.
Yeah. So there has to be a core to able to make that person follow into that thing. So if he's looking for someone specifically, he has to give a call to them so that he knows that is this person going to be the right leader or is this person going to be the right servant.
So for our community here in the UK right now, you said your trivium. The first thing was the math, science, grammar,
logic
and rhetoric, and then you added sciences into that. Yeah.
The quadrivium fits into the science, so it'll be like geometry, astronomy, music, and things like that. How would that help us here in the UK today? Those skills is going to help you to be a complete human being. That's what it really is. It's like a humanity. We call it humanities, right? In terms of education system. That is just sorry?
That's how I understand it. Humanities.
Humanities, yeah. But that's just the first step, right? That's just the basics of education. But you need to specialize in whatever field you're going to go into.
Cool.
So that's why I said, again, we need to figure out, like, for the long term, these children that we're educating, no problem.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm going to come over there and I think, definitely, 100%. So,
these children that we're educating, we need to know where we want to place them.
100%. I said to Mr. Riggs before you came, let me just give you a little bit backdrop. Because I was saying, I agree with all of that, and we need school. We was going to now, how do we actually start about building that? And I think we both agreed that you need an organisation or some kind of organisational structure which is built on some kind of values or principles or ideas, and then you need to decide what you do. And I said, my thing was, I think they need to, right from the off, you have to have the core group, master group, whatever it is, that are willing to say, I'm willing to put my hand in my pocket and put £50 a month into this thing. And I think it needs to be a membership body in which everybody who comes and joins it, maybe you do it according to a paid wage, so what you get paid, you pay a little bit less and so on.
Or you need to put 10 banks into the thing.
Yeah, so everyone needs to basically contribute into this organisation structure.
Yeah.
And it needs to be, you should have a bank within it somewhere that's investing into businesses and ideas across the communities.
Yeah.
You should have the schools as well to do that. But it has to start with people putting their hand in their pocket. What do you think about that?
Of course,
is that possible though within our community?
Within our community, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Within our community, the issue is that if not everyone is compliant to the principles of that organisation, not everyone is going to go into their pocket in the reality and say they're going to donate.
Yeah. That's right, and I think that we don't actually have a community. So the first step is actually building a community.
How do we do that?
Again, it's the same principle.
Is it education again?
No, it's the same principle.
You've got to have the people following their principles.
Yeah, I said it's the people need to come together, create a mastermind group again, right, and lay down what it is to
be black or
the structures of an actual community.
So, like, let's say we create a principle now. And then we all agree to it. That is the community.
Yeah.
You understand?
I'm saying, how can we do this here now, us three?
That's right. So, that's a good one. So how do we do that, right? So again, we need to come together. For those of us who are on the same wavelength, right? We identify that there is a problem, and we want to create a solution, right? So then we come together, and then we actually have to educate ourselves individually to what we need and place ourselves in those different departments or roles and functions. So don't worry about educating yourself on what I'm educating myself on.
100%.
See what I'm saying? Yeah, you educate what you're educating yourself.
Division of labour.
Exactly. That's what's the division of labour? What's my guy called again?
Marx or whoever.
No, before that, he's actually
Alex Smith.
Something Smith.
Yeah, I think it's Adam Smith. What's his name?
What's his name? Adam Smith.
Adam Smith.
Let's go.
That's it.
Wealth of the Nations or something?
Wealth of the Nations. That's it.
Yeah.
Slaver.
So we need to be able to do that amongst ourselves, and then obviously formulate a mastermind plan. And I'm saying like community building, we need to create or recreate a culture. We need to the root of as a human being. Yeah, obviously you can say your soul, but the root of that, which is ephemeral, is the culture. That is what distinguishes you as a Jamaican or anybody else from everybody else. It's your culture. So I'm saying I've identified the problem is actually our culture. That is the root problem, yeah?
Yeah.
So Bun's trying to fix everything else.
Fix
the core, the root, the culture itself, and everything else, which is kind of...
yeah, that's the same as I said to you with Marcus Garvey. He said, put everything aside. Yeah, you understand? And let's see the common denominator, and let's focus forward in that.
I agree with that. Put everything to the side and come together on the common denominator and what unites us, the principle that unites us. But the question is, what is it in our culture that's negative or bad, and what is it that is good? What do we keep about our culture and what do we get rid of?
You know what, you see, that's where the situation, this is why I say to people, what is bad and what is good? What's the common denominator between good and bad? Because one thing we try to do is, once someone has told us something that is negative, and it may be negative to you, but it may not be negative to me.
That's why I'm asking the question.
These are the issues, because we're already doomed something before we've even begun.
So you don't think our culture is negative?
Our culture is.
So you think the issue is with our culture?
No, this not the actual culture itself. The people.
You hear now?
The people or the culture?
It's more of the people. I would say more of the people, because they are product of their own environment.
Yeah.
You understand? When someone is a product of their environment, and the environment is negative, then they adopt that nature.
See, that's my position on that, innit?
Yeah.
That's my position on that. And I feel a lot of what we see, let's talk about it, the street ghetto culture that a lot of these things have. I personally believe there's two to some extent.
Yeah.
There's some that is built on this idea of principles and this idea of doing whatever I need to do to take care of my family and the people around me. And I need to build up my community by maybe I'm doing crime, but almost a Robin Hood-esque type element to it, do you know what I mean? But I do this, but I look after my immediate community. And there's a separate idea towards that, a separate thing, which is quite clearly all commercial and all economic, and it's all about money is going to make me successful. And the more women I can have, the more cars I can have, the more clothes I can have, it's going to make me a better person and better than other people around me. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's one where there's people who are driven to doing it because they think this is my only option, I'm trying to help my community. There's another one where I'm only doing this for core, do you know what I mean?
Because I feel when I look at it, I just go a little bit back, and what I've come to a conclusion is this is a thing that has been repeated over and over again. Our parents and our parents' parents and our parents' parents have thrown us under the bus. As in forms of putting us into the wilderness and us going to learn. Instead of us able to say, you know what I've learned, and I've learned from my mistakes, let me teach the child. So that child does not make that mistake. We experience when it comes to money, we go out there and all we've learned is that our parents always give. Not to able to maintain or look at the future of things. So then when we do come out of the household, all we know is spending. But then when bills start to come, we don't know how to deal with it. Or issues start to come, we don't know how to deal with it. So until we identify that and clarify that, then it's for us to able to go into your step.
We'll come to you in a second. What I also want to say to that is, I would say that we might argue what I put forward first. And what was that being the case? I would think the first one is a lot more closer to more of our natural cultures of wanting to take care of our family. And the second one is more of us taking on Western, not going to say the worst elements of corporate capitalist culture and all the things that are around that sort of thing in the society that we live in. We've taken that on board into ourselves as sort of Western corporate capitalist culture, and that's now funding a lot of that crime culture. Whereas before, when you had a local don in an area in Jamaica, he literally was actually taking care of the community. Now you have a local don in Jamaica, and all he's doing is filling his pockets and abusing the rest of his community. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying to you is that we kind of put a negative quotation on things. So like for instance, if you have someone in the community, okay, he's got like that, let's call it weed, and he's got weed farms, and he's the don in that area, and he's selling his weed farm, right? But because of the environment of the government have stigmatized on that form of what he's selling, it's now demonized that everything he's doing is wrong. And these are the issues that we have. We don't think from our own mindset. We think of what we get from the environment.
I would say that definitely, because when you look at stuff like Canada, for example, right now, they've totally legalized marijuana and cannabis. Look all across the western coast, and you think to yourself, look how much money Dam's been making for the past 20 years 20 years selling weed, yeah? Why have they not done it in the Caribbean? Think about how many spring break holidays they get from all across like America, Florida, and all them people who would go to Jamaica and all this Caribbean just to smoke weed. They would be able to build up their economy just off of that.
Okay.
But they let Canada legalize it before they have, because like you're saying, they've let somebody else come and tell them what should be legal and what should be illegal.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and this is why, as I said to you, is that we demonize a lot of things, and we have little knowledge of. Until we see what it is about and see if is it right for us, and understand that, then letting the environment dictate what we're supposed to do, then yeah. So anyway,
we're gonna wrap this up.
We're gonna wrap this up. Check out his channel.
Scatter Mind Show. Scatter Mind. Right now to YouTube. Subscribe, man, and click the little bell next to it, bro.
Yeah, and make sure you go to Black Eyes TV 7.
100%.
All one word on YouTube. We talk about different topics. So this week we're talking about history, and they're trying to change the word of Black History Month. They're trying to make it into a different agenda.
Oh yeah, they are trying to do that.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about that during the week.
I'm going to be on that, yeah?
I'll get you on, because we're going to have people from the States as well as over here, and we're going to dialogue on different topics. So check it out, Black Eyes TV during the week.
And like I always say, make sure you donate to Leon's Bentley Front, COE.
Content over everything.
We'll cover that in the Bentley fund. Nah, it's not broken before content goes mad.
Where's Leon? He's on one. Leon!
It's good, brother.
Oh yeah, I don't like that. The Emperor. The Emperor's direct. If it's the only way it makes sense to me, nobody else is coming. The Emperor of Palpatine, that's what I did. You know what? It was two groups. What a game up. Banging out conversation for a good hour or something.
Content over everything. From your melody.
Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Akhi, Islam has severe punishment for those foolish grooming gangs. If it's Islam, how come they're not Africans? How come they're not Algerians or Arab? Why have to be Asian, Pakistani? And 70% of them are white people, but 100% pedophile are white people. See what I'm saying? Why you have to add Islam? It's like someone said, a Muslim bus driver runs over